dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on and that wealth build. From the dirt to the gold, every story's untold. Cash flow, Savannah, where ambition takes hold. Started with $1, stretched it to a mile. Every setback just to settle for style. Stacking paper, vision clearer than glass.
Welcome to Cashflow Savannah. I'm Julie Gates. I want to talk to you about a really important issue today. As you all know, we're real estate investors and we want to be able to make money at the end of the day. And as I'm recording this episode, we're at the end of 2025 and it's been a tough year. Real estate prices are still fairly high, interest rates are still fairly high, and cash flow is low. So short-term rental world, we're seeing quite a bit of deflation in that area. Not terrible, but definitely some. Long-term rents, they're fairly stable, not too bad there, but just a little bit of deflation. We're seeing properties sit longer and it takes a little bit longer to get them rented. So we are seeing some issues and it's affecting real estate investors. As a real estate agent and an investor myself, I deal with this all the time. I want to buy property, but I've got to be able to cash flow. That's super important. So today I want to give you a few different tips and tricks to help you in the process with the buy side. As an agent, I'm always looking for the best deal for my client. I want my client to make money. I want them to buy more through me. I have a lot that do that. I'm very proud of that, but they're not going to keep buying unless they can make money. So I'm always looking for ways to help them do that. So this is just a great video to help. Stay with me until the middle. I am going to give you an absolute fact of a way that you can save $2,000 on the closing process. So we're going to look at some different ways to do this and just hang in there. It is possible. Don't give up and don't just look at the numbers on the MLS and assume you can't be a real estate investor. There's always a way. And sometimes you just have to hustle for it. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the price reduction. Okay. How do you get a great price reduction? It's not that complicated. If you are only looking at properties that just hit the market yesterday, no, you really are not going to get much of a price reduction. The best way you're going to get one, if that's the scenario and you know it's a solid deal, is to take it down, get it off the market, what they're asking, or maybe a slight reduction. And then later, if you find issues with the home, you can potentially get a price reduction after that. But keep in mind, you can typically get a steep price reduction or you can get money off during the due diligence period, but it's very hard to get both. If you get a property under contract, $20,000, $30,000 under ask, the expectation is going to be that when you do your inspections, which you have every right to do, they're not going to give you a whole lot more. I've seen it over and over and over where clients want both. And I get that. I know it. They're trying to make money. I completely honor that and I get it, but that's just the reality. Is that once you've gotten that seller down in price, either like I said at the beginning or during the due diligence period, it's just unlikely that you're going to get a double dip unless you truly find something crazy wrong with the house. Okay. Maybe there's a foundation issue or the roof has been leaking and it was undisclosed, or, there are different scenarios. I've seen buyers get another $3,000 to $5,000 off, which really helps. I mean, they're grateful for it, but I'm here to be honest with you. I'm here to set your expectations. So if you can just go in very educated and, kind of guide your agent. If your agent isn't me or with my level of experience, take control of that and just say, I'm going to go for this heavy price reduction. And then let's tell them that I'll take it as is later on. That could help you get it across the line at that lower price point. You just say, I'm not going to ask for repairs, but I do need $20,000 off. So be aware that that's the best way to save money. The less you ultimately pay for the home, whether that's seller concessions or in a price reduction, the more money you're arguably going to make. And, be honest with the seller, like this is why my numbers are where they are. One thing I want to tell you is that you should never go in and say you hate the home and you want a $50,000 price reduction. That's offensive. And if you sock the seller in the nose from the get-go, it's very unlikely that you're going to get your way. You're going to do much better. You can be kind and professional and you don't need to slam them. You just say, I'm trying to make a buck here. That's why the offer is a little bit low. The next thing I want to talk about is slashing your insurance bill. This is something that not everyone thinks of, but there are a million insurance providers out there. You don't have to go with the first quote that you get. Once you get a property under contract, start with insurance. You have to have it to close. It's going to take multiple phone calls and multiple emails to get a quote and the right number, and then pit them against each other. You never know until you try what you can get. My other advice is you want to be very honest with your insurance carrier. A lot of people will maybe not disclose things like it's going to be a short-term rental or something like that in order to get a discount. Do not recommend that. I am going to share my screen real quick. I have Team 912. This is our website. My entire team uses it, and we have so many resources for you. And we want you to save money. We don't want you to overspend on insurance. So if you go to Team 912 and you go under resources, you will see here that we have a whole tab for rental property insurance. These are excellent providers. Some of them are Savannah specific and some of them are nationwide, but I really encourage you to check out this and many other formats because there is no wrong answer on insurance. If you can save $200-300 a year on what you're paying, that's huge. You will make so much more money, and there's just really no need to, spend it on insurance if you don't have to. So I just really encourage you to always check insurance rates. The other thing that I do personally, and this is the truth, I have a pretty large portfolio myself. Every year, every other year, it just depends on what I have going on. I go back in and I check prices with other insurance carriers. Your carrier is most likely going to just keep going up every year. But if you shop that rate around and then tell your current provider that you're shopping it around, you can very potentially get a better deal. And so one year on my whole portfolio, I saved like $8,000 and I was sick that I hadn't checked prices. It is work. It takes time. You can have a VA do it. Okay. You don't actually have to do it yourself. You can have someone else, but just keep in mind that insurance is something that you need. They all typically do a $1 million, $3 million policy. There's not a lot of differentiation. As far as short-term rentals, we have a ton of options for short-term rental insurance. There are 2 national companies on that list that I just showed you on team912.com. They're excellent. I've used both of them, but we also now have a local insurance provider, and he has been beating the pants off of these national guys. So if you can find a local provider that also does short-term rental insurance, you might be able to do really well. So just please keep that in mind as you're working on the numbers. Got to have as inexpensive insurance as you possibly can. The coverage is going to be fairly similar. So keep this in mind. It doesn't matter who the provider is, as long as they're licensed and insured and your lender approves, get the best deal you can. My next advice, and this is where you're going to for sure save money, is with the lending. So the first thing I want to tell you is when you talk to an agent about buying an investment property, my number one advice is you should have already talked to a lender before you even select an agent. When we're sending you properties, we want to know what's your budget. That's our first question. Not because we're in your business by any means, but how do I know what to sell you if I don't know what asset class you're looking for and what your budget is? And you can say any budget that you want, obviously, but if you don't have a lender behind you, that's not accurate. I mean, you can think you can pay $500,000, but maybe you can't. I mean, we just don't know. And what the lender's job is to look at your income, look at your debt to income, and they're going to actually give you the budget. And that's what you need. Now, you might get approved for $2 million, and that would be great, but you definitely want to speak to a lender before you get an agent really working for you. The other thing I want to say is that as a licensed agent, we can't show you a house without a lender letter. The National Association of Realtors passed a law, or they had a big lawsuit, so they made all these changes to their rules. I don't know how to say it correctly, but as a licensed agent, I can't walk you in a property without being able to have in hand your pre-approval letter from a bank. That protects the seller, but it also protects our time. As agents, people want to waste our time and then never buy anything, or maybe they can't buy anything. That's very poor etiquette. So just keep in mind that if you can walk in the door with an agent and you're already pre-approved, you already know your max budget, that's huge. That tells us how serious you are, and it speeds up the process. If you call me today to be your agent and you want to look at properties tomorrow, it's go time. I can do that because I have your paperwork. If I have no paperwork, my next thing is going to say, well, I need you to talk to a lender. I can't do anything. And I've had multiple buyers miss out on great deals because they weren't pre-approved and they called me on a Sunday and I'm kind of stuck. I can't go do that showing. But if I have all the paperwork in hand, I can run out right away. I can send someone. There are all kind of capabilities that we have. So your first task is to always talk to a lender. Now, we don't care who that lender is as long as they're licensed in Georgia, right? As long as they're licensed in the state where you're buying, you're good. It doesn't matter. But once you go under contract, I always tell my buyers, you need to shop this rate. You need to shop the terms. And what a lender will do is they will do a term sheet for you. And they're great. Like, lenders want to talk to you. They want to work with you. And once you have their email address, just email them and say, Mr. Smith, I'm interested in buying 123 Main Street at this price. Give them your price. Even if it's the ask price. It doesn't really matter. And ask them to send you back a term sheet. That term sheet is going to tell you the current APR. It should. And it's also going to tell you something very important, which is the closing costs. Just because you have a 5% APR and a $250,000 purchase, if the lender is going to charge you a 5% fee to close that loan, that is not a lender you want to work with. Loan fees should be somewhere between 1.5% and 3%. I really wouldn't recommend going over that if you can. Once you go over 3%, that's moving towards hard money rates. And I mean, that's expensive. I don't recommend that for you. We're here to make money. So if you spend all your cash in fees, you're going to have a hard time closing on that loan or, buying something else the next day. So just keep in mind that every penny matters in these transactions. And there are plenty of ways to reduce those costs. I recently had a client who's awesome. I've really enjoyed working with him. He was using one of my recommended lenders, and for some reason, he found that they had a 5% closing cost on the lender side. The closing costs are dictated by the lenders. A lot of people don't realize that. I get asked all the time, how much are closing costs? Well, that's up to your lender. And the closing costs are based on the loan amount. So if you only borrow half of, the purchase price, your closing costs are going to be quite a bit less. And if you're going to borrow 80 or 90% of the purchase price, obviously those will be higher because you're paying a percentage of the loan amount. Okay. So keep that in mind. So again, that's a great question for the lender is how much are your closing costs? They may not have a great answer for you, but like I said, if you use my trick and you say, Mr. Smith, these are the properties that I like. Please give me a term sheet for these properties. That's where they have to disclose to you their loan closing costs. And that's really important. It's significant money, especially on a large purchase. So please keep that in mind. The other thing I want to say to you, and I'm going to share my screen again for you, is that at Team 912, we have a great answer for this. I'm going to pull up our website again, and I'm still on insurance, but under resources at Team 912, and this is for everyone. You do not have to be in Savannah for this. Very top of my screen here, I have local Savannah lenders. Some of these guys are local. Some of these guys are nationwide. And you can see here, I have links, okay? And these links are great in that it's going to take you right through to the bank. It's going to ask you for your name, your address. I don't actually know. It's going to ask for some basic information, but you want to fill that out. That's going to be, once you get through it, it should be a soft credit pull. It should not be a hard credit pull. So there's really no reason you can't talk to a few lenders when you're doing the soft credit pull. As long as you're not taking out lending, you should be fine, not a lender. But there's one on here that I want to point out to you that I really am starting to push more and more, as is my team. And it's a company called Better. And I have a link here. So when you click this, they know you're coming through me. Well, my team and I move a lot of real estate here in Savannah. We're volume, agents, and they Better knows this. And so what they have done, which many lenders do, and we appreciate it, is they give us our own link. So when I open this link here, actually it doesn't really say much, but it tells Better that the person came through me. They came through Julie Gates, and they go, oh, she does a big volume. We really want her business. By law, agents cannot accept money from lenders. Okay. We are not paid ever to recommend anyone, inspectors, none of it. We can't get paid. We don't get paid. We actually have to disclose that to you, the buyer, and we get paid typically by the seller. So they cannot pay me and they don't. But if you go through my link, because I'm a volume player with Better, and hopefully we become even more volume, they are right now giving anyone that gets pre-approved through my link $2,000 towards closing costs. This is huge. So take that and run. Okay. You don't have to close with me. You don't have to close in Georgia. I do believe they're licensed in multiple states, but this is a great way to use this incentive to your betterment. And I want that too, right? The more people save, the more people are going to buy real estate through me. Like that's where I get incentivized, is I can sell more real estate because they save $1,000. So I really encourage you to use these links. Look for referrals. How can you save those closing costs? Banks are always going to make money and they love to pad those closing fees. I'm so sorry, banks. I'm calling you out, but I don't want you to be the only one making money in this transaction. I want my clients to make money. And that's a very big deal to me. So please use these links. Check out our lenders. The other thing I like about people going through my link is that I get emailed in my team every time someone applies. So if you're one of my clients, I'm going to instantly get your pre-approval letter. If you're working with another agent, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I want you to save the $2,000, but I appreciate that. And they're really good at communicating, so just keep in mind that that's a really great way to save on those closing costs because you do want to save up enough cash for the percentage down, but you're also going to need to pay your lender. So just have that math worked out before you really go into a transaction. It's very important for you to understand what you're dealing with and what it's going to cost you because we're in this to make money. The fourth thing I want to talk about with you is that you can audit your operating expenses. Okay. There are multiple service providers. There are different property managers. There are different things that you can do in order to save money. At Sid Was Here, we charge management fees. We don't discount those because we can't. We have high expenses. But what we add for our owners, and I extend this to you if you work through Team 912, we have discounted services like lawn care. We have multiple vendors. Like there are definitely ways to save money as you're operating the property. And if we can pass those on to owners, we absolutely do. So definitely call around, get some different quotes. It depends on what you're doing. The repairs, they're all kind of things where you're going to get this quote and that quote. And it's important to get references, use the best person, make sure they're going to do a good job. Make sure they're supervised, but wherever you can save money, do it. We recently had a situation here at Team 912 where the contractor gave one quote and then all of a sudden the quote went higher. And they said, "What should I do?" And I said, "This is a great contractor. I know them. Okay. They're good, but the budget has to go back down." So my request back to the contractor, I said, "Well, we weren't prepared for that. What are you going to cut? I understand you're trying to go up because you want to add this. We need to cut something else out." If you're honest with them that you just don't have it in your budget, they'll work with you. They'll do their best, but definitely, keep in mind that you don't have to pay the first thing that you're offered. See what you can do. Can we cut this out? Can we do cheaper windows? Maybe I paint the house myself. I've told a million people that. Like, if you can just do a little bit of the work to get the property ready for rental, you will save a mint. I spent years painting my own properties. I would say up until maybe 2 years ago, I painted everything in my portfolio, and I'm talking ceilings all the way to the floors. You can do a little bit of the work yourself, or at least be there to supervise, and you will save a good bit. If you can't do that, pay someone to stop by and check on them. Pay someone to review the work. Like, make sure you're getting a good job done for a fair price. That's really important. The next thing is you can definitely look at your financing structure. Okay. The more money you put down, the lower your payment is going to be. You can use a DSCR loan. There are so many different loan products. You can even extend the terms. I don't recommend that, but there are different ways to save. One of my favorite things when I first buy a property is that I like to pay extra the first few months if I can. If I have an extra $200, $300, $400, $500 the first couple months that I own a property and I pay down the principal, I love to think how that money over the next 20, 30 years is not being charged interest by the bank. So if you have a little extra to throw at it from the beginning, that money will really save you. And on team912.com, we do have amortization schedules available for free. And you can look on there and say, wow, if I just make this a 13-year note or a 20-year note, you can actually save a ton. I know we're here to cash flow, and sometimes that means stretching out your payments. Some banks do a 40-year term. I don't always recommend that. You're going to pay a ton in interest, but it just depends on the deal. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that year one is always tough. The first year you buy, you're most likely to put a little bit of work into the property that's going to cost you. You have some time where you're ramping up. Maybe it's vacant. So just give yourself some grace, work it into your numbers, and go in prepared, because buying real estate, it's not easy. Every single property I've ever gotten under contract ever in my whole career, I have literally woken up in a sweat the night after I get it under contract, and I freak out. I'm overpaying. Oh no, I'm going to go broke. I don't know why. I just always get this terror the day after, but every single time it's worked out. Okay. Just hang in there. Use a good agent that's going to help you run the numbers. You know your deal. You're going to go in educated, but hang in there. It's going to be scary that first year. But when I really start to see great returns is year 2, year 3, year 4. After year 4, you're going to be doing very, very well. I'm a long-term girl. I'm not speaking about flipping, obviously. I'm speaking about buy and hold. It goes for short-term rentals, medium-term rentals, long-term rentals. Just give yourself grace that first year. Don't put it in your head that you have to make $1 million year one. This is a tough market, okay? The best thing you can do right now is buy in today's dollars. You don't want to buy that same property 2 years from now. It's going to be more expensive. It just is what it is with real estate. So I look back on some of the properties that I freaked out about and I look like a complete genius, 15 years later. And that's cool. And you will too. So just have that long approach to your investing. Real estate investing is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not. It's a get rich slow scheme. And the more you can take off the front end, the less you're going to pay on the back end, but also take it easy on yourself. You've just got to have that long game in mind when you're working on this. The other thing I want to talk to you about is that you've got to keep in mind that you're going to save on taxes by purchasing this property, whether it's a long-term rental or a short-term rental, whether you use the short-term rental loophole or you don't, this is going to be a tax deduction for you, okay? You can depreciate a property over many years, or you can do a rapid depreciation on a short-term rental and take all of it year one. But you have to account for that in your numbers. You have to realize that I've already saved, this much in taxes, and even though, maybe I only made $2,000 this year, oh, I saved $10,000 over here, or maybe $100,000 if I use the short-term rental loophole. So it's easy to get really down in the mud with that and think, oh, I'm really not making that much. I'm only making $50, $60 a month. Well, yeah, that's year one, okay? And year one's going to be like that. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to make promises that I can't keep. It's going to be tough year one. As the years go by, you kind of settle in, things get rolling, and things go very well. And that's what we want for you. We want you to do well. If you can just get in your mind, I'm going to buy at least one property per year. And I hit a point where I said, I'm going to double every year. If I bought one this year, I'm going to buy two next year. You can set any goal that you want. It's a slog, okay? Real estate takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. The stock market also isn't going to make you rich overnight. It's also a slog, and things will also go up and down. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I want to tell you is that I see all the time. I was looking at a quad yesterday for a client, and he said, hey, pull rent for it. Horrible. And I mean, less than half what I would charge for rent on those same units. I was so sick. We see owners all the time, not my owners, but in general in the market, they sell out because the rents are so far under market. And a lot of times they really care about the tenants and they just don't want to raise the rent. Property taxes go up every year, and insurance goes up every year if you aren't out tracking it. So I've actually gotten some really great opportunities for my clients because of these tired landlords. And in my own career, I mean, when I first started in Savannah, rent was either $650 a month or it was $850 a month. No one charged anything else. And I said, this is crazy. Like, they were just leaving those rent numbers and people were selling out of their properties for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 because they were only making $650 a month in rent and they couldn't pay their bills after a while because their bills went up, rent stayed the same. So when you use a professional property manager, they're going to go up every year. That's their job. And if they don't, there's usually a really good reason, like COVID or something like that. I mean, I have had a couple years where it was like, we just can't push it. We're grateful for you to stay at your regular rate. But just keep in mind that when you invest, no matter what the strategy is, the hope is that the rent is going to go up every year. You can't bank on that, but that's where you're going to really see those returns go up. Your payment should pretty much stay the same. The revenue should go up every year. The first property that I ever bought as an investor, as my first single family, I should say, that when I first started, I was losing money every month. And now it cash flows over $1,000 a month. And I've had it for a long time. Okay. I'm not trying to brag or say that I'm a magician. It's really that time value of money and the appreciation of real estate and the rent appreciation in the market. And guess what I've done? I've pushed the rent every single year so that I could be in that position. And that's the whole goal. It's still a little under market because I've had the same tenant for a while, but we just get them used to, hey, every year it's going to go up 3%, which is usually $20 to $32. It just depends on what the rent is. It's very palatable for the tenant if you can just hand it to them in bite-sized pieces. But if you try to all of a sudden double your rent overnight, you're going to lose the tenant, you're going to have vacancy, and you're going to end up selling, just like many sellers that I see in this market. So just keep in mind, as you're really stressing about these numbers and how expensive everything is right now. It's never going to be as cheap as it is today. It's not. It's going to go up from here. And also your rent go up in the same manner. So again, the payment should stay the same. So that's where the math just kind of clicks up every year. So keep that in mind as you're running those numbers. Other thing is, how can you add amenities? Okay. And one of my favorite amenities is being pet friendly. And people want to bring their pets. They want the option to bring a pet. Now, there are many different theories on this. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I do personally and what I recommend to my clients. You're in this to make money. You're not in this to have the most perfect, fabulous house on the street. Although obviously we all want that. And I definitely take pride in my homes. But there are definitely ways, pet proof and child proof, your homes. Can't decline children, but you can decline pets. But you know what? I never do. I will take a tenant's Shetland pony if they're going to clean up after it. So just keep in mind that the more open you are to amenities, to different things with the tenants, the more tenants you're going to have that apply for your property. And like, I love to use all tile showers, all tile floors, things that aren't damageable. LVP is great in that it's not going to get scratched. I've seen a lot more damage from children than I have from pets. And I know people worry about pets and I get it, but I'm a professional property manager. If there's a bad smell, we have an ozone machine. It's going to get it out. If something gets scratched up, on the walls. Like I've had pet damage. I've had a dog chew on my windowsills. I don't like it, but you know what I do? I pay a guy to fix it. I take it out of the tenant security deposit and I really don't get that upset about it. It's just not that complicated. So you want to go, oh, I want the property to stay pristine. It's probably not going to stay pristine. As the owner, you're going to have to work on the floors and walls. That's kind of your job. The state isn't going to, take that out of the deposit. But if they actually cause damage, you can get that back. So don't stress too much. So that's where, in this case, I really consider a pet an amenity. But, or is there something else that you can add? Is there covered parking? Just different things are very desirable to tenants. Great school district. I'll spend a little bit more to be in a great location or to be in a great school district. Why? Because I can probably charge more rent. I'll know that going in, but I'm also going to get tenants that stay longer. Okay. If it's a tough area, if there are lots of crime on the street or whatever, tenants may stay and they may not, and you can't really be upset at them for that. So that's where that risk reward strategy comes in. But just keep in mind, anything that you can use to raise the rent is going to help your numbers, okay? And at Sidwas here, what we do, because we're different and I'm an investor and I'm looking at these numbers, we don't charge an upfront pet fee. A lot of places will charge a $750 one-time non-refundable pet fee. You can do that. You can do anything you want. I charge pet rent, okay? We charge $35 for the first pet. This is on a long-term rental, obviously, and we charge $20 for each additional pet. I have one tenant right now and she has 6 cats. And I'm okay with it. Do you know how much money that is? That's significant. And she pays that pet fee, 6 pet fees every single month. So actually that's taken my rent from $2,000 a month to over $2,200 a month. And I'm thrilled. Okay. That's great. No problem. You can bring your 6 cats. And she's been with me a long time and I don't see another landlord taking her. So because I was the only person willing to take that tenant, may I say she's a great tenant. We check the property. She keeps it in great shape. So that's been my way of adding an amenity, to where I say, yeah, we'll take your pets. No problem. Oh, you have a giant dog? Okay. I'm okay with a giant dog as long as you pick up after it. So just keep in mind, this can really juice your numbers long term. The other thing is you want to be ethical, be honorable in what you're doing. Don't lie to your insurance company. Definitely don't lie to your lender, and be honest with your agent, what you've got, what you're working with, and what you need. At Team 912, we're really great at running numbers and we're really great at helping you run your numbers. And as long as we understand what we're dealing with, we can help you around it. I am a problem solver. If you tell me, oh, I can't do this because of that, I'm probably going to have an answer that might work for you. Okay. And that's not to be rude. That's to say, hey, we can still do this. We've had multiple situations where we came down to closing and something came up and we were able to work it out with one of our contacts or vendors or something. Try to be very honorable and honest in your dealings, and you're going to get very good service in return. If people like you, they know you keep your word. They know that you're genuinely trying to make a buck and buy investment real estate. They're going to do their best for you, and they're going to do more than their best for you. They're going to fight for you. And I've had clients that were not ethical. I had one in particular. We closed, I can't remember exactly the details. You have the inspections, different things. They were not wanting to pay the vendors. They were taking their time. They were complaining about things, trying to just get in there and needle everybody. And I saw that. And, then they wanted me to help them get some repairs done afterwards. I'm sorry, but I had to let my vendors know those are my contacts. And I said, this is a good person, but you need to get paid up front because I have seen where they aren't treating other vendors very ethically. And I have an issue with that. They need to get paid if they do the work. And I told this person that. I said, look, I'll hand you people, but you need to pay them. I'm not hearing good things about you, and that's your reputation. Reputation really matters in this business. So if you're always kind of a pain in the neck or you try not to pay your bills or something, word gets out, and people that are really good at their job, they're not going to want to work with you. I spoke with an insurance provider just recently. They had been working with another investor here that's had some trouble. They really are in financial straits, and I know this because I know them. But they told me, they said this person owes me a lot of money, and I will not be doing one thing for them. I mean, that's tough. You work hard, you want to get paid. These vendors also work hard and they want to get paid. And I assure you that your reputation, it's a lifetime in the making and it's very quickly damaged. So just keep in mind to be honorable, pay things on time, tell everyone what's actually going on. Don't try to hide things, because in these transactions, something comes out. Let's say you have a bankruptcy in your past. I don't know. Tell them that. Just tell the lender that up front. Like, look, I went through divorce. I had a hard time. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You tell them that bad news, they're going to be a lot more likely to be like, okay, I get it. Sammy was honest with me. I want to work with him. I had a situation last year where we switched systems. I moved over to Remax, and Remax is now handling all of the money. And so I lost my capability to move money the way I was. And I was ACHing the money into owners' accounts from people that I had, seller financed from. Well, these are very, very valuable relationships to me. I have 4 gentlemen that have agreed to seller finance, and I've been paying them like clockwork for years. I was dropping that money in their account through ACH on the first of the month, period. Like, I was tight and right. I value them. And that's how I show them that I value them. I pay them. And whenever I need a reference, I give people their names. I'm like, these 4 guys, I have borrowed money from them privately, and they will tell you. And so when I switched to Remax, this is a while ago, and I knew that I could no longer do these free ACHs, which I was doing, and I had to mail them a paper check, but at least temporarily I had to. I was nervous. I said, this is a big change. I have these guys very spoiled. I called every single person personally. And this is well before it came out, but well before I had these changes, but I called them, 2-3 weeks ahead of time. And I said, sir, how are you? And many of them were shocked to hear from me, because I don't call them all the time. I just send them money. That's all they want. They're out of the property, so they don't really want to know if I have an issue. But I called each one of them personally. And I said, Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, I want you to know I'm switching systems, and I don't have an answer yet for how I can ACH you like I have been. And I'm going to have to send you a check through bill pay. And I purposely made the check arrive a little bit sooner, because in my experience, bill pay is typically a day or two late. And I had these guys spoiled. And I said, I don't want my good name ruined with you. And every single one of them said, thank you so much for just giving me a heads up that you were making a change and that I was still going to get paid. Like, they don't want to see those checks stop. They want to know that I'm going to do what I said in that contract. And I did. But my honesty saved any drama. There was no issue. They were wonderful. One of them actually helped me solve the problem. He had his Edward Jones account auto debit my account, which is fine. I want him to get paid in the easiest ways possible. So I just want to encourage you to be ethical. Keep in mind how important your reputation is. Quite frankly, mine is too. And I'm very careful what clients I work with. If I feel that someone isn't ethical, I don't really want my name attached. And you will lose good people doing that. So just keep that in mind. That's not a cost you can put on a spreadsheet, but I assure you, if you take care of people, they will also take care of you. And those relationships will help you make money for many, many years to come. I am a prime example of that. And I'm very thankful for the vendors and the people that I am able to work with. And I couldn't do it without them. Okay. Real estate is not a solo game. Could you go in and rehab the whole property yourself and then sell it for sale by owner and manage it yourself or whatever? Yeah, you could, but most likely you're going to need a whole team to help you do this job. I'm here to help you. My whole team is here to help you. And I just hope it's very doable, to buy in this market. Just watch those those pennies, be aware that you can shave money from all kind of places, not just the purchase price. We have many ways to help you. I hope this has been good. I'm really here to give value, and I hope that you'll consider buying here in Savannah. It's a great market. Even if you're not buying in Savannah, I hope that you found some value from this. So connect with Team Nama 2. If you ever need an agent in Savannah, we're here, we're ready, we're sophisticated. I'm very proud to say that. If you ever need a property manager, call Siva's here. We have very competitive rates, and we also help you save money. Many of the systems that I've given you today are in there. And I truly hope this has been a blessing to you, and I wish you all the best. We will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Just to settle for style. Stacking paper, vision clearer than glass. Hustle game tight, never moving too fast. Fields of green, seeds of sweat I sow. Running numbers, watch the cash trees grow.